Good morning, everyone. My name is Janina Serra, and I will be discussing rape culture in the context of the Philippine society. In this context, rape culture is a toxic environment where rape victims are not only silenced but also blamed for the crime committed against them. Statistics show that rape cases in the Philippines are low. However, growing up in the Philippines, I believe that the inaccurate data is because of rape culture. Um, I divided my discussion into two categories. First is the evidence of rape culture through systemic issues, and second is the cultural response. For the systemic issues, I will be talking about the flawed justice system, the inefficient government, and the lack of sex education. Um, so there is a law in the Philippines that states that the age to determine statutory rape is 12 years old. And this is the second lowest age worldwide. It was only raised to 16 years old last year. So if the age to sexual consent is 12, rapists can claim sex as consensual even if the child is unaware of the events. So the law works to the advantage of these abusers. 70% of rape cases are committed against children, many of them being incest rape. International Justice Mission reports that the Philippines is one of the global hotspots in online sexual exploitation of children. Many of these are family based crimes. So, with the data presented, how is it possible that rape cases are low? First, it shows that the government is inefficient in tracking, reporting, and creating programs for victims. With all of these combined, of course, there are many unreported cases because most of the victims are children. They are not able to stand up for themselves, and sometimes they are under the control of their family members. Lastly, the Philippines is a Catholic dominated country. Sex education is not taught in schools and at home because it is a hypocritical concept. Why would sexual intercourse be taught to children if premarital sex is frowned upon? So this results in a lack of healthy discussion about sexual relationships and consent because sex talk is taboo. For cultural response, we have a culture of silence, victim blaming, misogynistic behavior, and I will be discussing the recent movements against rape culture. So the Philippine National Police states that victims do not want to bring shame to themselves and their family, which is why they choose to remain silent. There are statements such as she asked for it or what were you wearing to rape victims when they tell their story. So now it's not only about shaming the victims, it's also about blaming them for something they cannot control. And this results in an increased distress and delayed recovery for the victims. Next is the misogynistic behavior, and this is shown through Philippine President Duterte's public speeches. He says rape jokes such as shoot communist women in the vagina, so they're useless, and the crowd applauds. So if this kind of behavior coming from the highest ranking official in the Philippine government is glorified, then this represents an acceptance of misogyny or disrespect towards women in the society. However, it is important to acknowledge that there are people who are opposed to this behavior. The picture on the right, lower right side of my presentation shows the hashtag babae ako, lalaban ako movement, which translates to I am a woman, I will fight, which is a protest against President Duterte and his misogynistic behavior. The most recent movement is the hashtag Iha Ako, which enabled victims to publicly share their stories on social media platforms such as Twitter and Facebook. What these movements do is they shed light to rape culture. They give voices and support to victims, and they demand accountability. These movements are one of the reasons why Safe Spaces Act was recently passed. This law penalizes sexual harassment in streets, public spaces, and online. Despite the statistics indicating low incidence of rape in the Philippines, rape culture still exists, and this is evidenced by the large amount of unreported cases because of bias under gender ideology and a misogynistic justice system. Thank you.